Nutrition, science, sugar, food sources, health implications, and label reading. Most of us enjoy the taste of sweetness, but you've also probably heard that you shouldn't eat too much sugar. Maybe you've even heard that sugar is toxic. The truth about sugar is more complex. It's true that most Americans eat more added sugar than recommended and would benefit from cutting back. It's also true that added sugars are hidden in many foods, and it can take savvy label reading to find them. But let's also remember the big picture when we think about sugar. Some sugar is naturally occurring in whole foods, packaged with other valuable nutrients. There's also room in the diet for some added sugar, and it can be valuable for some nutrient-dense foods, more palatable, or just for pleasure of enjoying a treat. Let's look closer at the role of sugar in the diet. Food sources of naturally occurring and added sugars. Sugars are naturally found in fruits, vegetables, and dairy. These are nutrient-dense foods that come packaged with other essential nutrients too. Fresh fruits and vegetables contain naturally occurring sugars like glucose, fructose, and sucrose, but also come packaged with fiber, potassium, and vitamin C. Dairy foods like unsweetened yogurt, milk, and cheese contain naturally occurring lactose, but also come packaged with calcium, potassium, phosphorus, and riboflavin. Another food that contains natural sugar in the form of maltose is sprouted grain bread. In the example below, the only ingredients are sprouted organic rye kernels and water, yet there are 7 grams of sugar per slice. This sugar must be naturally occurring maltose, and as you can't imagine, it comes packaged with nutrients like fiber, protein, and iron. In contrast, added sugars are concentrated sweeteners that are added as ingredients to foods to make them sweeter. They add calories to a food but contribute little to no essential nutrients, so they decrease the nutrient density of foods. Among the most common sources of added sugar are table sugar, sucrose, and high fructose corn syrup. But they come in many different forms with different names. For example, honey, maple syrup, agave nectar, and brown rice syrup may all sound more wholesome and natural, but they're still added sugars because they are concentrated sweeteners that contribute little to no other nutrients. Other names for added sugar you might not recognize as sweeteners at all, like barley malt or treacle. Names of sugars commonly added to food. We find added sugars in some expected places, like cookies, ice cream, and soda, but there can also be a surprising amount of added sugar in yogurt, breakfast cereals, energy bars, and plant-based milk alternatives like soy milk. We also find added sugars hiding in unexpected places like ketchup, salad dressings, bread, and pasta sauce. In fact, nearly 75% of packaged products in the U.S. food supply are now sweetened. In general, most people don't need to worry much about how much naturally occurring sugar they consume. This goes back to the fact that naturally occurring sugars are packaged with other nutrients. For example, a large apple contains about 23 grams of sugar, more than half of it in the form of fructose. However, it also has more than 5 grams of fiber, plus a significant amount of vitamin C and potassium. The fiber slows down digestion and absorption of the sugar into your bloodstream, giving your body more time to metabolize it and giving you a greater feeling of fullness. A single can of soda, on the other hand, contains about 33 grams of sugar. It's in a similar chemical form as the sugar in the apple, a mix of fructose and glucose, but it's not accompanied by any fiber to slow down digestion. Therefore, it's rapidly absorbed into the bloodstream, and your body has to quickly metabolize the fructose to glucose and increase insulin secretion to process the spike in sugar. Plus, although the soda contains 150 calories and the apple has just 116, the apple is probably going to leave you feeling more satisfied and less hungry compared with the soda. For all of these reasons, it's the added sugars that we worry about, not the naturally occurring ones. That said, there is room for some added sugar in a balanced diet, and you can use it to make nutrient-dense food tastier. For example, you can drizzle honey into plain yogurt or sprinkle some brown sugar on roasted winter squash. You get far more nutritional bang for your buck using added sugars in this way than consuming them in something like a soda. And of course, there's also room for a much balanced diet for occasional treats. How much added sugar are we eating? On average, Americans consume 22 to 30 teaspoons of added sugar daily, up to 17% of calories, well in excess of the recommendation to limit added sugar intake to 10% of calories or less. Where are all of these added sugars coming from? Nearly half of them come from soda, juices, and other sugary drinks, as illustrated below. Therefore, the dietary guidelines recommend that people drink more water and less sugary drinks. On the nutritional facts panel, sugar is expressed in grams, but most of us don't think in grams. Therefore, it can be helpful to convert gram amounts to teaspoons, which are easier to visualize. Use the conversions shown in the graph below to make these calculations. The sugar in soda adds up fast, especially with our supersized portions. For example, a 64-ounce soda has 186 grams of sugar, or about 46 teaspoons. It can be eye-opening to track your added sugar intake for a few days, and this may give you an idea of sources of added sugar that you can live without and replace with something else. However, tracking added sugar intake can be tedious. In the big picture, it's most important to focus on eating whole foods that are minimally processed and to consume added sugars in moderation. The benefits of eating less added sugar. Research shows that adopting an eating pattern that is relatively low in added sugars has many benefits, including a lower risk of cardiovascular disease, obesity, type 2 diabetes, some cancers, and dental cavities. Why does too much added sugar cause health problems? The reasons are complex, and this is an ongoing area of research and controversy. One possible explanation is that diet high in added sugar means the pancreas has to work hard to make enough insulin, and over time it can begin to fail and the body's cells start to become insulin resistant. The liver also has to work hard to metabolize fructose, and too much fructose increases fat synthesis, which can raise blood lipid and cholesterol levels, increasing risk of heart disease. Both dietary sucrose and starch are associated with tooth decay. Bacteria living in the mouth can utilize the carbohydrates passing through the oral cavity for their own benefit. Those bacteria happily metabolize carbohydrates, especially sucrose, but also starchy foods, which stick to teeth and linger there. Acid is formed in the process, and this can dissolve your tooth enamel, eventually causing cavities, also known as dental caries. Reducing sugar intake, limiting between meal snacks, and brushing after meals to remove lingering carbohydrates can help reduce the risk of dental caries. The use of fluoride and regular dental care also help.